Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome to 5 and 9 in a one-stop co-op shop, where I go over 5 things you need to know about a game in around 9 minutes. This is Jason, and today I have the Librarians adventure card game to feature. This one's from Brett Schofield and Everything Epic Games. It is a cooperative adventure for 1 to 4 players in which you're playing a bunch of good guys facing off against bad guys. And there's a lot of adventure card games in this space. So I'm going to compare the different aspects of it, the hero play, the hero construction. There's deck building in this game, the scenario design, because you have individual scenarios. So let's get to it. Disclaimer, I was provided a review copy of this game. My number 5 is a pro for me, which is the overall thematic presentation and art style. So The Librarians is American cable drama on the TNT network around 2014. It's likely that people who are watching this have not seen the show or are not familiar with it. But you're familiar with the general concept of magic users that are defending a magical place, this library, against magical foes. I mean, we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer, we have the Magicians. There's a lot of these serials. That general thematic thrust, I believe, comes out in how the game plays out mechanically, and I'll show that in just a second. In addition, the missions are almost directly drawn from each individual television series. So right now I am showing the mission, The Labyrinth, and this was the big bad of the episode. So that is a plus or minus for some people because they may not like how it depicts these real monsters. And this is a little cheesy. I mean, come on. However, because it draws so directly from the TV show, it isn't just like recycled art. They really did a lot to bring you into that world. My number 4, also a pro, which is the basic card play for your player character. So you have your hand of cards. Most of the game is going to come from here. And you see there's costs up on top, and you're using cards to pay for other cards. This is very familiar to anyone who's played any of these adventure card type games. A little bit of a twist though that I appreciated. You're going to draw 3 cards at the beginning of every turn, and you have a decision. You can either draw the card, turn it over and put it in your hand, or sight unseen, draw the card and make it energy. This is how you pay for the cards. In a game like Marvel or Arkham, you have all that stuff is in your face, so you're just constantly looking every single turn, which cards do I want to keep, which cards do I want to play, which cards do I want to build up for, etc. Here, you just decide. It's like, okay, I have 3 energy that I really want to play this. And I'm just going to, put 3 cards face down. I'm not going to think. Quick. I like that. Good decisions. In these types of games, your player area can get a little bit cluttered with items and all the things. In this game, you are limited. You can only use 1 artifact. You can only use 1 sidekick. If you get future artifacts or sidekicks, well, that's energy because you don't have room for other things. So I appreciated all the little things that this game did to lower some of the overhead and make the card play straightforward but still fun. My number 3, also a pro, which is the hero decks and the deck building. So if you wanted to, you could play one of the 4 basic characters right out of the box. They pre-construct the deck for you. This is a deck of 30 cards, and they are ready to go. And these 3 are from expansion materials, so you have a lot of options there. But if you wanted to get into the deck building, I feel the Librarians does a lot to make it easy to understand and still give you a lot of fun options. So what I've done is I have taken all of the starter decks and I've broken them down into the different schools that comprise their deck. So you have Eve Baird over here. Every character is going to have their set of 7 cards that they start with. Think like in a Marvel LCG, Iron Man has to have their suit. Eve Baird has to have her core cards. However, these universal schools are decks of 7 cards, and you can mix and match them. So like, let's say over here, I have Command, which is kind of a leader type deck, but normally she would be well prepared, also leader type deck, but let's say I wanted to give her gadgetry. So then I could mix gadgetry with Command and one other deck to have a whole different flavor of character. In addition, as you complete the missions, you get unlockable cards, so you can fit 2 of these into their decks. So you have 4 piles of 7, which is 28, and then 2 extra cards is 30, and these extra cards can be pretty powerful. You see they have a little bit more cost to them than some of the normal cards, so you can build around playing those cards as well. lots of options. My number 2, a definite pro, is the overall scenario design. You're going to get 4 scenarios in the basic box, and the underlying mechanism is very similar. This is a generator of badness. It's kind of a timer, and there are things that you do in the game to accelerate the timer. You have to try to mitigate that. It's going to progress and get worse and worse. You're trying to complete missions. You add clue tokens. You read what's on the back and you progress to the next mission. That stuff is very much resonant with existing LCGs. Once you get past that initial scenario, there's a lot of fun to be had. So this one I showed you, the Labyrinth, before. This is a recurring enemy that just jumps out of the deck over and over again. Hard to deal with, but you got to figure out a way. This one is my favorite, the Buckingham Palace scenario. The mission cards are actually rooms. These are guards. You can distract them, get them going to other rooms. You can get surprised by the curator, the evil character over there, so you have to try to sneak around. I thought this was super fun. So a game like Arkham LCG delivers excellent adventure-based scenario design. So I don't know that this game offers something that you can't find in Arkham. However, I always appreciate well-delivered, solidly built scenarios because it's really easy to mess it up. Happy to say the Librarians hits a bullseye here. My number 1, you knew it was coming. This one's a mix. Leading con for me is the dice resolution system. So you will tap your character for your primary action at a turn. You can fight bad guys. You can overcome obstacles that are key to disturbances. You would look up the stat. You would collect that many dice on your side and also challenge dice. And then you would do an opposed roll. Now, on the plus side, there is a lot of room for mitigation. You can play items and spells and reaction cards to help you out. Also, there is a support mechanism where you can discard a card, or anybody else at the table can discard a card. Let's say there's a die face that you want. Let's go ahead and turn that one into a success with a card discard. If you like your hand, you can ask other players if they have cards they can spare. So there's a lot of room for cooperation, negotiation there. That's great. On the negative side, 2 things. Number 1, a sense of dice fatigue could set in because every single resolution is a dice roll. Not every gamer is going to feel that way, but I felt a little bit exhausted with the dice at the end of an hour-long mission. The second aspect is that this game doesn't have a hugely upward-leaning power curve. It's not like you're going to start with 3 dice and end up with 7, or like in some Fantasy Flight games, or have multiple successes. You stay within the same level of power, and it's more like a tactical turn-by-turn survival, stay-alive type thing, which is cool in a story-based game. However, you never really get to the point where you can overcome really bad luck from the challenge dice. You don't get a lot of resources yourself, and there's not a lot of ways to manipulate this thing. So if you get that dreaded 3 cancel combo, and if you're playing the regular game, then 3 out of the 6 faces of the challenge dice will cancel your successes. There's just not a lot that you can do. So my rule is when it comes to randomness, the longer the game, the less tolerance I have for this kind of oppositional randomness that takes away things from you. This game suffers from that because you don't have a lot of chance to manipulate the bad guy dice. So that was the Librarians Adventure card game. I really feel like the dice are going to make or break this game for a lot of people because they're so front-facing, so ever-present, and articulated the pros and cons that I found. So I will leave that to you to see if that's a part of your fun. In addition, compare it to the other adventure card games in this space. And as I said before, we have a ton, the Fantasy Flight ones, Aventuria LCG and Pathfinder LCG. Does this game offer anything particularly different if you already own these other products? Well, that one, your mileage may vary. I don't know if the Librarians truly stands out amongst that field. However, if you don't own any of these, and this is a perfectly good product to pick up, especially if you want a low-cost entry into this kind of game. You take on Arkham, and I think the most direct comparison is Arkham LCG. You're taking on a lot. There's all these adventure paths and, deck building options here. They strip a lot of that down, but they keep so much of the fun in terms of the deck construction and the fun that you can have playing the scenarios. So for the most part, with those provisos, I can recommend the Librarians Adventure card game. I think there's a lot of fun to be had here. This is Jason with the One Stop Co-op Shop, reminding you once again that we'll see you at the next stop.